for hydro-treated vegetable oil. Everybody talks about HVO today. It's very close to diesel oil. It's been produced from waste, residue oils and fats such as cooking oils. It comes in many types of blends and it's drop-in fuel for pretty much every marine engine. It has the same NOx and particulates, but it's very low in carbon. It's different from ordinary biodiesel, and that's very important to note, in that it is hydro-treated, which makes it oxidation stable as opposed to the trans-esterification process in which traditional biodiesel is made, in which a lot of people are very concerned about biodiesel and the problems that can happen with it. HVO has a long storage life, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 years is stored properly. The molecular structure of HVO is the same for each type, where it can be variable with biodiesel, so that's why HVO is very good. It has a higher cetane value as well than straight diesel. One downside, you could say, is the availability of feedstocks. There is some talk of growing palm oil for fuel, but okay, we've got to get fuel from somewhere. Not so sure that is such a downside if we manage it. So, next slide please. Other available fuels. These are commonly talked about other available fuels. Hydrogen. Contrary to popular opinion, hydrogen is not naturally available. It's not always green hydrogen, can be, but it's not always. It has the potential for near zero gas emission in a fuel cell, and in a fuel cell it only emits water vapor, vapor and warm air. Its energy content volume is low because it requires high pressures, low temperatures, and chemical processes to be stored properly. We're going to get into hydrogen in much greater detail with one of our experts here, so I'm certainly not a hydrogen expert. I'm good on hot air, but let's have a look at hydrogen. While hydrogen is not a greenhouse gas, it is not harmless. It aggravates some greenhouse gases to stay in the atmosphere for longer, but we'll have more on that. And we will talk to Nat about H in much greater detail, and then we'll do a short presentation on monthly new development. Methanol. Now, I've got experience with methanol because I come from the commercial sector many years ago. It can reduce CO2 emissions by 95%, and green methanol would add no CO2 to the atmosphere. It can be used with existing infrastructure and produced conventionally from natural gas. Storage and handling shoreside is well known and documented. It's been around for quite a long time. It does have a low flash point. Its density and heating value means that tanks need to be 2.5 times, roughly, larger than standard fuel. My peers here will correct me, I'm sure if I'm wrong, so just that sort of coughing noise if I said some nonsense. I'm known for doing that. Ammonia. Ammonia is very popular at the moment. Ammonia is made from hydrogen and nitrogen and can be known as a zero carbon fuel, but it does produce nitrogen. Now, I think fairly commonly known that most of our atmosphere is nitrogen. I think 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. It has a slow chemical reaction rate, which can cause nitrogen discharge from engines without burning. That can be a problem. Do we want to upset the nitrogen balance in the atmosphere? That is a little bit talked about, but that could be talked about a lot, I'm sure. It has a higher energy density than hydrogen. I think it's 12.5 microjoules per litre as goes to 8.5. Maybe higher, think of higher. No, sounds like a game show now, but anyway, you're probably right. Okay, we'll come back to that one. You're going to drop it. Okay, I'm just rambling at the moment, just getting an idea of what's going on. It has a slow burn and ignition is a problem compared to diesel. So in view of nitrogen emissions, we must think about that. So let's go to the next slide. Is electricity a viable alternative for superyachts? Everybody's talking about electricity. If you were at Metz in Amsterdam, trying to speed, there were so many electric motor development companies and and startups. My goodness, it's like we were just going to turn switches and it's going to be on. I think there's challenges. There's challenges for range, raw materials, and fire risk. We'll talk about that later. Next one, please. Impact of clean fuels, fire fuels and HVOs can be more expensive. Discuss that in great detail. We've got our experts here. He will put me right as he did this once. I had a figure wrong. I just added 100% by accident figure. Happens. Super yacht use, I think we're about 2,000 hours a year, if it's good. So let's think about the costs and the impacts of fuels on that. But we'll be talking to you, Chris, about that. Education. So, education. Are we there on education? Yes. How can we educate owners, managers, and captains about the need to adopt or adapt to clean fuels? That's a big subject. Do they want to be educated, or do they need to be educated, or there needs to be desire on both sides? So we'll discuss that. Next, what are the barriers? So what are the barriers? Is it just cost? Is everything just about cost? And the barriers to anything, any technology, new fuels, or propulsion? Are we always just thinking about cost, or are we thinking about much bigger subjects? Let's see. And next we go to regulations. Regulations, what is the regulatory environment in the EU and elsewhere? Well, I'm not totally up to speed with that, but I'm sure our experts, and we also have experts in the room, I'm sure. Right, and back, yeah. Okay, let's see what happens with that. And realistic alternatives to the current fuel mix. That is something that was in the news just the day before yesterday, about Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and their new method of producing hydrogen. Okay, it sounds very complex, very expensive, and maybe a long way away. We have something from one of our guest speakers here that is here and now today. And I spoke to him earlier about being a game changer. We discussed whether game changer was a good thing or not. It sounded too radical, so we're not going to call it game changer, we're going to call it reality. So we're not a game show, we're a reality show now. So I'd like to speak on that. He's on.
Maybe here a slide.
You too. Okay. Your show.
Okay. I'm Marco Assado from Net Power H. The H is for hydrogen, obviously. Before talking about Net Power H, I need to talk about Net Power Group. Net Power Group is an independent renewable energy development platform. We have 30 gigawatts of renewable projects in a pipeline, and we operate in wind, solar, BESS, and now in hydrogen. Net Power Group puts on the table 100 million euros for Net Power H. Recently, Vinci, a big French brand, invested in Net Power Group 50 million euros in a strategic partnership for develop renewable energy projects. Coming back to Net Power H, Net Power H is we develop and we operate the first worldwide infrastructure for a fueling station and hydrogen for yachting, for pleasure yachting. We have 1,100 million euros to create this infrastructure. We launched this project 1 year ago, and we have 25 30 marinas that agreed for us, and we will create 100 refueling stations in the Mediterranean area. As you can see, we choose a very particular design inspired by nature, and the design is made and created by Zadig Architects. That's one of the most important architect firms in the market. The design by Zadid is created and will be totally ecological responsible and with zero impact on the environment. And also respect all the regulation for hydrogen storage. We can answer to all marinas needs and size, and that's most important because in Italy, marinas have no spaces, but we can answer to this size, create something special and something adaptable for all the marinas. As you can see, this is another representation of that will come from our project. And also we are partner of Blue Lane, part of Salvarenzo Group, that is that create two of the hydrogen power chase boat that will support the boat of the America's Cup. For Blue Game, we support Blue Game by refueling of hydrogen and the refueling procedure of hydrogen. So that's an important step for the market because that technology, like in the automotive sector, could push hydrogen like the vector of green transition. And for the first time in our history, we'll be present at the Venice Boat Show in May 2024. And we also have here a fully hydrogen boat. And I'm pleased to invite you at this boat show for have a fully hydrogen experience and journey with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. That's really interesting. Just a question for you. Do you feel the transition to hydrogen, one of the key features, do you think it's about infrastructure? Do you think it's about change of attitude?
When we launched this project, someone said to us that we are crazy. And maybe we are crazy, but we are also a game changer. We think that hydrogen could be the vector of this green transition because we saw that battery is not a good meter to navigate the sea, and hydrogen is a zero emission vector that is most important and create a new luxury way to stay in the sea. We also break the loop of the chicken and egg, that no one create yacht and super yacht without an infrastructure to refuel. So we are very close to create this refueling station network. The first one will be in Venice at the end of this summer, and after that we will create other 24 refueling stations in the Mediterranean Sea. So we think hydrogen could be the good vector, the most important vector for the yachting sector.
Okay, do you see it as a dual fuel option? When you think about large yachts transiting to both seasons, is hydrogen viable because of the volume required, or is it going to be Mediterranean yacht or not?
We are talking about the hydrogen market, and that is a market that will be more present in the next 2 or 3 years. But someone have to start to create hydrogen. There is few green hydrogen in the market, but I talk about our group, that is not our group, because we have the know-how to create renewables project and create hydrogen and storage for it. So we have the total know-how to create this infrastructure and to push hydrogen in marinas and in the yachting too.
Okay, thank you. Raul, I'm just going to come to you as Repsol as a refiner. What's your point of view on future fuels and hydrogen? Where do you think it's going? Are we looking at hydrocarbon fuels? Are we going to switch to hydrogen, or is it going to be like the car sector, fuels for certain purposes, electricity for one, diesel for another? How's it going to be? What's your opinion?
Well, first of all, Repsol as a company, we have to say that we are purely agnostic on technology. We will deliver what the market is asking for, and well, you already know that the challenge is huge. That means that most likely there will be there will be a winner, but all the fuels will be needed to address the issue. Continuing with what Marco was saying, and maybe simplifying quite a lot, hydrogen could be the basic brick to build the rest of fuels, because as we were saying, in terms of logistics, in terms of low heating value, hydrogen is not there yet. So we need methanol, we need ammonia, in example, to increase the amount of energy that we are putting in our jars and in our vessel. So, as Larry was saying, what if we are going for a long trip? Decrease will develop later, but one of the things that we know right now, at least from the commercial shipping, is that most likely the number of bunkering operations will be doubled. Why? Simply because the specific energy of the fuel we are working on is more or less half. We were talking just a rough number. When we are talking about diesel fuel, we're talking about 40 to 42 megajoules per kilo. When we're talking about ammonia or methanol, it's slightly below 20. That is giving you everything. I'm more focused into shipping, commercial shipping for transport, but it's something that eventually will be ending in the gas industry. So focusing on what is bringing us together here, I think that the best and more feasible solution that we are having right now is HVO that we was talking before, because it's a dropping solution. It's a nice molecule. Again, simplifying quite a lot. We're talking about producing method is taking the fats, just break the whole molecule, and then you do a tailor-made with hydrogen, and you produce exactly what you want every time. So it's very consistent molecule. We also have some other derivatives, flame and blah blah blah. But okay, this is the short term, and finally we're going to have it. But the problem is that just focus into the shipping industry, we could be talking about 300 million metric tons of tankers per year. And when it comes down to availability of feedstock for producing this so-called HEFA technological route, it's only 50 million metric tons per annum we can get.
Yeah.
So the gap is there.
We
need absolutely everything, and some more technology is supposed to be coming to close the gap.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Chris. He was smiling when the number of bunker operations was going to double. And did actually see in a very smart car showroom, we're ordering a new car based upon that number of bunker operations. But maybe he's just smiling about each of you. See what he has to say.
Thank you. So, very much like Val was saying, we see the future as a multi-fuel solution. In the medium term, anyway, perhaps long term, a winner may come through and we get a similar situation we have at the moment where 99% of yachts are running the same automotive gas oil. But in the medium term, there's going to be a stage where we have a multi-fuel ecosystem in place, and I don't think it's appropriate to kind of try and suggest which one is better, because they're going to be better for circumstances that are better for each fuels. The hydrogen fuels are going to be, in the short term at least, more appropriate to smaller, shorter distance travelling yachts. But the question that we look at the moment is, depending on your definition of a super yacht, there are approximately, round numbers, 6,000 yachts currently cruising around the world at the moment. To re-engine or change the propulsion system on those existing boats is a massive investment. So we have to come to a solution where you can find a fuel that is applicable to that existing fleet. And as has already been discussed this morning, HVO being a drop-in fuel that has the same chemical composition as conventional diesel is the most viable solution.
Can you mix it? That's what we want. Mixing is good, yeah.
100%. And I think that's it's a very good question, and I think it's a way we can introduce the product into the market with a little bit more sort of caution. When it comes to things like new fuels, the super yacht sector is incredibly risk averse. Nobody, or it appears to us, nobody wants to be the trailblazer and experience the potential difficulties or problems that they need to overcome to have smooth operations.
Fuel stability is everything, I think.
Absolutely.
There is that nervous fear that when we do have bad fuel, as Tom will know, tank cleaning, my God, what a problem. We're sitting next to each other because we have a similar discipline: bad fuel, we look at that bad oil, and tank cleaning and the problems that go with it. So you really think that is a problem with the fear factor?
I do, but coming back to what you said about can it be mixed, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's to any percentage. In fact, if you go into a petrol station with your diesel vehicle, you'll likely see B7 somewhere around the diesel pipe. B7 stands for a 7% biofuel content. Now that will be a FAME content. However, it is likely that there will be an additional 7% of HVO already blended to that diesel to increase or decrease the sulfur emissions and decrease the environmental impact of the diesel that you're burning in the car.
Well, I just fully agree. In fact, when you're thinking about the HVO example, from the chemical point of view, pure chemistry, you have to go for a C14 analysis, but to really differentiate what is what, who is who, is fossil, is HVO. So I mean, it's something that most likely you're fully aware. We are now in the second generation of biofuels. You were talking you know myself about FAME. That was the first generation. That was scary, sticky molecule. I wouldn't like to be in a tank without FAME because of viscosity. But now we are in something. The molecule from the strict point of view in terms of precise. That's what it's absolutely precise. It's always the same molecule. Viscosity, lubricity, cetane. So everything is very stable, and it's easier to handle because I mean, one of the issues that we have with FAME is that you have to heat sometimes to
what is the source?
flow.
Yeah, exactly. Where does it come from? What is the water content? Absolutely, it can vary massively. I just quickly switch to Tom, just to keep the flow going. So Tom, tank cleaning, when there's been flame problem, when there's been microbial contamination, nightmare.
Yeah, we are dealing with a lot of problems in commercial like ferro-sulfur fuels, flame, because it's not mixable, or you have a high clarifying value in the flame or in diesel. What I'm worried about, but you already gave some answers about the mixable with other suppliers, because in the ferro-sulfur fuels, it's not possible, because when you buy ferro-sulfur fuel, every fuel is different. You have a lot of problems with the mixable of the products. One refinery is making the low sulfur fuels differently than the other ones, so you have a lot of clogging, filters are blocked, lines are blocked. So we are facing, the clients are facing a lot of problems. But in this case, of course, it's HVO, it's totally different. But also with flame, now I'm a little bit worried about the temperature where it's stored. Is there a minimum temperature of storing? All that kind of questions. Not because of me, because we have a job, because the lines are blocked. But as a superyacht, it's not acceptable, because then you have
To take on the superyacht's problem, if you really, on a commercial vessel, the tank access, it's easy, you can get people in there, you can really go to town. But often in superyachts, you're talking about taking structure out, and there's a big food problem, and that is sometimes returned to dock.
Now we are now having a very nice conversation in the Netherlands about the new fuel like methanol. But methanol has a very low flash point. And storage of methanol is easy, it's a nice product, it's very clean like water, it's for the CO2, everything is very nice, but don't forget that we have to store it in a yacht. And if you're facing with problems with your engine, then you're also facing maybe cleaning from some things. And because methanol is a very low flash point product,
65, I think it is, something like 65. So
methanol,
what is the
methanol is flash point 23?
What, we're doing this?
No.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think I don't have
I think it's 65.
No,
Really?
methanol?
No, that's good.
Scientists?
65.
Methanol?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it is, yeah. Very, very low. Because some people consider methanol dangerous in the commercial sector. Because there's no smell, but it's just about storage, but it's about all the new fields. I think storage and filtration is something we need to talk about.
It's a really good point. So when you were talking about clogging in fuel lines, in the superyacht sector, I think the vast majority of problems come from bacterial contamination. And the reason that we see so many yachts requesting a flame-free product for their conventional gas oil is flame has a propensity to water. I'm very aware I have technical people in the room, and I confess I'm not a technical person. I repeat parrot fashion from what I've been told. However, the issue with bacterial contamination is it tends to grow in that layer between the water and the diesel.
Yeah. That is true.
And that's what creates the clogging in yachts. It's that bacterial contamination. It gets in the filters, it gets in the injectors, it causes lots and lots of
I'm
problems.
still interrupt there, and the worst thing about that is it often becomes a problem in rough weather when the tank's moving. Okay, you're in rough weather, you're deciding to press on, tanks start moving, then you lose engines. Wow.
So if we now compare that to HVO, and you correctly brought up its storage characteristics as being a positive to the fuel, you're not eliminating the problem with bacterial contamination, you're drastically reducing it because it doesn't have the same propensity to water. So from a practical point of view, we have a lot of customers that come to us, single season yachts, come to us at this time of year, they've sat all winter, maybe their tanks haven't been completely topped up, and they've got condensation build up on the side of the tank walls, they've got issues with water and fuel, and then the potential problem of bacterial contamination and everything that entails. If you now replace that fuel with an HVO, and have the HVO in the tanks for the winter, again, not eliminating, but drastically reducing that danger of coming to the beginning of the summer season and having all the issues and pulling, say, maybe coming down to the roll, experience a bit of rough weather to top up the fuel, and that's when you get the issues.
And when you mix, will it fully mix? So if you top off a tank with H2O on top of diesel or on top of distillate, will they spray, will they stratify, or will they fully mix?
Coming back to what you're saying, we have a parameter we tested, selection or stability oxidation for controlling this biological activity. And coming to your question in terms of blending or mixing, from the physical point of view, when we were talking about flame, we were talking about densities, specific densities close to 0.9. With a, well, this is a really too technical story. I think you already know. The US is producing more crude. This is lighter crude. The moral of the story is that diesel from the refineries is getting lighter.
Yes, absolutely.
Overall. So what does it mean? That the gap, the differential between flame and the density of the diesel was wider. That means that there could be, it's not going to happen, but depending on how long you have the product stored in time, you could have some stratification. Okay? Again, coming back, diesel, we could be talking right now densities 0.8 to something. HBO, we could be talking about 0.8. I mean, you don't have that much spread in terms of density, so you don't have that stratification possibility. So the blend is going to be more stable. That's from the physical point of view. From the chemical point of view, it's even better because the molecules are more similar.
So just to cut through that, we've now decided that HVO is great. Okay, we like the HVO, we think it's good. We like hydrogen, we think that's good. Okay, in terms of cost, so let's talk about cost. Okay, I'm a super yacht, I use it 2,000 hours a year, maybe I use it 3,000. I'm just going on my world tour. Might not be able to get HVO, but I'm determined to actually use HVO. I'm not too concerned about cost. Of course, I have an eye on it, I'm a businessman, I've got a super yacht. What's the difference between running on distillate and running on HVO? Is it going to make a difference to me? Am I even going to think about it?
Yeah, unfortunately, the answer is yes, it is going to make a difference to you.
How much so? Is it going to worry me? Because I've got a 90-meter super yacht. Am I really going to think about it? Or am I going to think about safety? Am I going to think about security of operation? Am I going to think about my charter business? I've got Madonna coming on in 3 weeks' time. Do I need to think about that? And Elton John at the end of the year, I have to worry and wake up at night and think, Jesus, let me think about this fuel.
I mean, look,
Or do I need your mobile number?
well, you do.
Are there insurance implications?
Well, yeah, fine.
And James Stone, of course, and Tom, and if he doesn't work, of course,
Let's address the elephant in the room. HVO is more expensive than conventional gas or diesel. In places, it can be up to 100% more expensive. So we're talking about a product which is substantially more expensive than diesel. However, we saw in 2022, beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, massive volatility in the commodity markets. We saw conventional diesel prices double in price. Did all the super yachts stop moving? Absolutely not. In fact, we saw more activity in those early months of 2022 than we had done all since prior COVID. Does that mean the budget is not an issue? Of course it doesn't. Every super yacht out there is operating to a budget, and we absolutely respect that. But what is interesting when you talk about HVO is everybody is comparing it on purely a sustainable basis at the moment. It's a reduction in carbon emissions, therefore you should be looking at an alternative to conventional diesel. And is that cost acceptable given the benefits for the environment and the sustainability credentials? Is that enough to push it over? And what we started to look at is should we be looking at HVO as opposed to being just a sustainable alternative to conventional diesel? Actually, should we look at it as a premium fuel? When it comes to other things in the superyacht sphere, when the owner wants the very best for something, they recognise value and they're prepared to pay a premium for a value product. When you look at HVO, it has a higher cetane index. So what does a higher cetane index mean? It means it burns more efficiently. So per metric ton, appreciate not by litre, but by metric ton, it's actually going to burn more efficiently than your conventional diesel. It's also have a more complete burn, and what a more complete burn should do is place less strain on some of the component parts of the engine. So you're potentially looking at a reduction in long-term maintenance costs for the engine.
Which is great for a heritage fleet. Let's forget the 6,000 yachts, okay? Look at the number of new builds. How long is it going to take to integrate dual fuel engines, hydrogen? Okay, that's an integration, and that's important. But HVO does take care of the heritage legacy fleet. I mean, we need to not forget that.
And I think if that's where you address the issue of the cost of the fuel, yes, it costs more, but it's a better fuel. If you want the very best fuel to burn your yacht, you should be burning HVO, regardless of sustainability and lower carbon footprint. The very best fuel available on the market today for yacht to burn its engine is HVO. Therefore, it's expected to have a premium to it.
From a technical point of view, as Chris was saying, cetane is super expensive. In fact, when you go to when you go to the petrol station, it will be very, very close to the limit. So, what is important this cetane is take care of your engine. You are avoiding a knocking, in example, in the engine, which is not the best thing you want in your engine. And but also, another thing is from the safety point of view, flash point usually is better from a HVO. So all of us, we know that transition is not going to be cheap. Something that, an example, I don't know if I think you were thinking about going through it later on, that in this to be created market, we need some support from a legislation or regulation. And
That's a good tie into that. Do you think this new engine fuel development is going to be led by regulation? We're going to follow regulation, or the refiners, the fuel manufacturers going to actually think about the operators think about regulation first, or are we going to follow it? So, superyacht takes about 4 years from conception to launch. Are we going to think, okay, I'm going to follow regulation, I want a sustainable yacht? Is that going to happen? Are owners actually going to think about that? Certain really 150 metre yachts, maybe Bill Gates is talking about a hydrogen-powered yacht. Okay, are others going to do that, or are they going to think, well, I'm just going to design go for a design, the regulations are now. That. Well, do you think hydrogen? Do you think people are going to think about hydrogen?
For energy, we are working to create the market. So there are
What's the tenders? What do you think it is?
Sorry?
What do you think it is first? Super yachts and tenders, or chase yachts? Where are we going to go first?
I'm not a technical person, but I think we have to focus on, we are creating a new market, okay? So we need to understand that we have to do something, and after that, regulation comes with us. But we have to put the first stone to create a market, okay? We have a regulation based on the automotive, okay? That is different by navigating the sea. And the space, the size are different, okay? So we need to understand that we have to create something, and after that, regulation laws will be created for us. But if no one can do something new, something to push hydrogen, something to minimize the impact of the vessel on the sea. There is no market.
So do you
And the cost of hydrogen too is based on the demand. Okay.
So do you think the automotive sector is going to need education in the mind of designers and those who can have super designs? Do you think that's where the education is coming from? The automotive market, is that where the media is going to take us?
I think there's an element of where's the supply chain coming from. You look at take the super big boats out of the equation, look at the mass market of our sector, the engines, the generators, they're not designed and developed specifically for yachts, they're marinized land engines.
Because the volume is too small.
Right.
Exactly. We've only got, if you think about this, 50 and 60,000 motor vessels out there with 3 or 4 generators and huge two-stroke engines. We're talking about 6,000 super yachts. Yeah, exactly. So it's
Coming back to your question about regulation, I would suggest, given current experience and sort of recent terms, yes, regulation is going to be the only driver of the transition, on the basis that we don't see any, we see very, very limited demand for HVO, and yet in the commercial sector, where we have things like EU ETS schemes already coming into play, the demand for a biofuel or a reduced carbon emission fuel is starting to build because there's a regulatory demand for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it will definitely escalate the demand once we get regulatory pressure coming into yachting, which hopefully will be relatively soon.
okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think regulation is, it's already proven, it works. We are in Europe, the Red 2 is applying, Red 3, the next generation will be coming next year. But it's a fact that, for example, Dutch government, they were playing with the multipliers and some other factors, and it's a fact, it's data that the Port of Rotterdam has been sharing bio stuff like there's no tomorrow. It's in absolute terms, for sure, it's the biggest port in Europe. But also, relative terms, the sales that you can find of bio something in Rotterdam, again, in percentage, is much higher than in the rest of Europe, precisely because the government was supporting and giving some incentives in terms of multipliers and this kind of things. So you were saying before, we are learning about the trade racers and the arts, and that's a fact because, as I was saying before, Red 2 is only covering road and rail, and the Red 3 is including air and sea. So that's a fact. So until this point, the government or the European Union was not paying attention to the sea, but now the time has come, and when that happened, when all the countries they transform the directive, the European directive into the local scene, I think that that means that they are encouraging the use of HVO, and that means that maybe the gap that the increase was really for twice the price. Maybe we're not going to current fossil fuels prices, but the spread of the gap will be narrow for sure.
Thank you. That's interesting. Let's just throw a bit of a blue sky thought out now. Yachts going a lot further. Okay? Destinations are much wider. There's a lot of explorer yachts, a lot of people going around world cruises, a lot of people going to different locations. Do you think that soon a lot of these locations will be identifying themselves as greener areas? They'll be looking at emissions and they'll be restricting access to certain classifications of yachts? That's going to happen anyway. That likely?
Well, something that we are seeing is that we have some port operators that has been have been asked by local authorities to decarbonize their operations.
Yeah, because let's say you don't collaborate, so you don't anywhere like that, we think it's right, okay, we need to be having.
You need to
Sustainable
to put the carbon and the far you want. You can. I mean, just look at this. We have the cathedral, lots of people walking around. We have the port with lots of vessels, of boats. Do you want a pollution area in the heart of the city? Even if the pan-European authorities if they don't push for that, maybe local governments will be using the levers they can to invite the port operators to go for this kind of
I
local
think we're
fuels.
playing catch up all the time. In the superyacht sector, we think we're playing catch up from a fuel point of view, from the environmental point of view, on the following the commercial sector. We're certainly not, we're always running after them.
I think it's a bit of an unfashionable opinion in the superyacht sector because we pride ourselves on being sort of the cutting edge of technology in so many different areas, but when it comes to transitioning fuel, I do think we're behind the commercial sector, and the commercial sector is showing us the lead of what can be done and how improvements can be made. It's for me, it's a positive thing. If we can take all the good bits of what the commercial sector has done and take the learnings that they've already experienced and apply them into our sector, then that's a really positive thing.
Okay. Interesting.
I think it's the challenge is so big that I think that in this case the judge industry must target to what the commercial city is doing. I mean, but I don't see ammonia being used in Jackson, for sure. But in example, the ammonia the ammonia engine is being developed by VW and Estela and these big guys. Right now, while we are talking, so my point is that still too many question marks to be addressed as to be a first mover from the gas industry. I think it's, and I would say, if you ask me, most of the big ship owners are also in a waiting time, wait and see time in terms of what kind of engine do we order, because it's, again, fully agree with Chris, fuel scenario, and why you are going to order a methanol vessel if you don't know if there will be methanol available. So
A lot of the talk of these fuels is slightly greenwashing. We're talking about the desirability. I really wonder what the knowledge is about fuel. I'm going to ask you a question, Tom. As a tech heating expert, we're talking about knowledge of these fuels. When you are dealing with a problem tank, let's talk about regular tank washing, is it because somebody's made a mistake? Does it have the knowledge of the fuel? Or is it just a poor fuel supply?
In the yachting industry, it's not because of fuel, because they know exactly what they're doing. I have to say, because they don't take any risk. We are dealing with a lot of super yachts built by British companies. Maybe you know them. Oceanco, Fed ships, all kinds of that kind of hazy yachts. They're not taking any risk. But we are dealing with the vessels are going for a refit. Right? And a refit means the tanks has to be cleaned, the fuel has to come out, disposed, and of course there is some debris on the bottom of the tank. That's the reason why they clean it. And they won't have clean tanks before they store clean fuel. To come back on the little bit of the methanol. Methanol is a very nice product. I checked it. We are not talking about the flash point is between 11 and 15. The boiling point is about 65. So I double checked it. because I thought, okay, I'm wrong. No, but the first point is very important because when you open a tank filled or was filled with methanol, you get an explosion level in your engine room or in the tank. So you have to be very careful opening. That's the big advantage of AFO, of HVO or diesel oil. It's not dangerous. Of course, it's dangerous. You don't have to step in because of the oxygen. But that is a regular check and ring damage and make sure that you can entry safe the tank. So there are many things to think about when you go to methanol or ammonia. Ammonia is a very nice product. We are also having a lot of, let's say, but we get a lot of information about the new fuels, and that's the big advantage, the big question also in the commercial trading. What are they going to choose for the future?
That's okay. I think we're getting to a point now where we have really got a number of fuel options in the air. We have reality from hydrogen in 13 arenas, in Italy, 30. We've got 100 million investment.
Not only in
Not 30, okay. We've got HVO readily available. It is more expensive, but are we really concerned about that? Probably not, I think. It's a concern. But super yachts are a high-end prototype vessel. We're not talking an economy vessel. So personally, I think we're going to adopt that. So is it a transition fuel? Are we going somewhere from diesel distillate HVO to somewhere else? I know somebody pretty high up in Toyota who said they sort of adopted electric vehicles because they have to, but they're going to actually look for a hybrid fuel. That's what they're going to do. So hybrid fuel, that could be coming. That could be where we are in 10 years. Who knows? There are gaps in the education on the knowledge of fuel. I head up a special interest group in an organisation called the Institute of Marine Engineers, Science and Technology, which is very much a commercial-based organisation for commercial shipping. It has 16,500 members in 200 countries. That has a fuel special interest group, and anyone in the super yacht sector can join IMRS. It's an open forum, 16,500 engineers, science and technologists around the world. You have access to them all. It's a wonderful organisation. That, I think, is a potential platform for fuel education. I think education across the whole super yacht sector in some technical areas maybe could do with a little bit of polishing. So I'm going to round up on that. I'd like to thank the panelists here. I think we have some great information. I think we have a lot of questions. I think we have a lot of answers as well. But I think we know where we're going. And James is going to jump in there and ask me a question.
Thank you. I was going to just thank your panel and ask if you have any questions out there. We probably do. I'd also say if your question is hydrogen oriented, Mark will stay long after. So if you have any questions for me, put your hand up or grab it in a hug. I want to make an observation, knowing absolutely nothing about fuel, but a little bit about psychology among super yacht owners and captains and operators and managers. Is where Chris's comment about super yachts lagging the commercial sector. Of course, they have very different dynamics behind them. You have obviously commercial, you have regulators, you have shareholders, you have ESG providers, whereas super yacht really don't have all those things. They have an element of them in places. But also, in terms of budget, if the budget is no issue, which was really in the commercial world, the super yacht is well, if HVO is available now and it costs double once 30 years. That's all right.
I saw the question that if you're a high-end container operator, you have a budget. You also have a very reputation aware. So Maersk, very, very, very concerned about their reputation and their hold. So they will go for higher costs and hand it on. Very concerned about that. So yes and no.
But that may make super yachts slightly less adaptive when it comes to, well, if budget's not an issue, then why should we be exploring all these other options of methanol or hydrogen or electric, whatever, when HVO is readily available, I'll just pay double.
Depends what you get back, doesn't it?
So they may not have the same requirements from the back end office and sort of top down instruction on the vessels, but what they do have are very demanding users, owners and guests. And the crew have to ensure that everything they're doing is optimizing the readiness of the vessel. And I think sometimes the resistance in adopting change in things like fuel is this fear of if it goes wrong and the boss says, I want to go and I want to go now, but they can't because something's gone wrong with the injectors, with the pumps, with the engines, whatever, as a result of changing the fuel, their life becomes very, 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 very difficult. And that's a problem that we need to recognise and help them understand how they can sort of mitigate any issues so that they won't cause their owners or users any issues in using the vessel.
But that fear factor, particularly in the charter business as well. If you miss a charter for anyone, reputation as a charter vessel as well, we missed it. Because not every charter has an extra 2 weeks they can take. It's not like going on a cruise with 2 week release that you get 3 months next year. Your program is pretty much worked out for the whole of the next
Well,
5 years.
were there any insurance products coming along to cover that eventuality with this whole new piece of technology coming along? For me, any questions out there for our esteemed panelists? I can see a couple.
Hi, I'm Jack, I'm a development representative. So for me, it works closely with the new build shipyards. I love the initiatives that are happening at the moment. One of the shipyards in Italy at the moment, they have their own hydrogen plants. They're testing within their shipyard to ensure that they can actually use it on their vessels. And the same with one just further down the road from them. They're testing out a methanol fuel cell for their hull number 1, but they're not making it readily available until hull number 4, which is for, let's say, 2028, 2030. When I'm advising these owners, I understand about HBO and how readily available it is. When do you think all these like methanol and hydrogen will actually be readily available? Are we just waiting for IMO sort of regulations to come through and what's after that?
Marco, yeah, we're going to answer
At the moment, green hydrogen have a small presence in the market because green hydrogen is produced by renewable energies, and Europe still working on renewable energies, and we think that could be more present working on renewable energies and try to push authorities, cities and marinas to create spaces to create hydrogen, green hydrogen, and create area for storage. I think we start our project with a scenario to the 2030. We know that maybe the next year we sell 30, 40 kilos per day, but it's a small quantity for the markets. Okay? But we need to do it because when people will see that the technology is ready, the hydrogen is safe, and the procedure and the regulation for the hydrogen refuel is ready, I will think in 2030 the market will be ready. And I think that we are going to design a new method to navigate with zero emission, and for yacht owners it could be a new solution, a new luxury, and could help them to access to areas that are protected. So I think 3 years it could be a good time for hydrogen on the market and green hydrogen on the market.
Marco, do you think that the IMO will actually go to make statements at the COP, the next COP?
Sorry, please.
Do you think the IMO will attend the next COP meeting to start talking about this or not? Or the IMO wait waiting for toll while they're actually going to be very dangerous themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And what can I say? I say that we are working like day by day. So we have analysts to do to analyze the market, to try to understand the evolution of this market. We saw great players like China to invest in hydrogen and to try to fix at the lower price of the hydrogen per kilos. Okay, but we are game changer. So we work day by day to push these technologies, this vision. So it's very hard to answer in a specific need to the answer. We are creating the infrastructure, and is part of our business. Understand the market and understand that it's a business that will start in the future. So at the moment, it's very, very difficult to answer a specific question about hydrogen. And for the technology, as I can say before, I'm not a technical person. Okay.
Do we have any captains or chief engineers in the room? Anybody? Yeah? Anybody actually have experience of HVO, hydrogen, using it, any difficulties, or anybody want to stand up? Say yes? No, nobody. I don't believe it.
I think the most important meeting for sea hydrogen technology is the America's Cup. There we have 8 boats completely powered by hydrogen that travel at 50 knots. So I think it's
I saw them. We all saw them. That's quite something.
yeah. So I think it's we will see the technology there, and after that I think
it's going to be a steep curve, that's for sure. Yeah. I think if a lady a little question, be somebody with a microphone in their hand, eager to talk and listening. Oh. You have the floor. Come on, James.
Okay, thank you. Lucia Ligot from Asturias de Mallorca. Thank you for your presentation. Because we are talking about liquids, gases, things that are selling the book. I would like to know how you are facing the challenge of traceability. Because when we, as a CPR, for example, when we offer one of our clients alternative fuel, we want to be sure that that we are offering a solution that is really better in climate wise. So we will be able, so we would like to be able to calculate the footprint from color to grade. So it's important where the combustible has been produced, how it has been shipped to Palma de Mallorca, and yeah, be sure that the hydrogen is green and not blue or gray and those kind of things. So I think it's really a challenge, and I would like to know how you are facing it.
It's an excellent question, thank you. It's where things like the EU ISCC certifications come into play. So, speaking from our point of view, we are ISCC certified, and that's been driven again by the commercial sector. Because of the ETS schemes, the vessels transiting in European waters need to prove the reduction in carbon emissions to prevent it from having to purchase the offsets. So there's a regulatory requirement there for them to be able to prove the origins and the authenticity of the alternative fuels that they're using to reduce their carbon emissions. And that's where the ISCC is a fantastic certification. It audits the entire supply chain from production all the way through transportation, storage, and usage. And it allows us to give a sustainability declaration which gives a calculation of reduction in emissions in comparison to conventional fuels. And like I say, that's an audited process. We're audited annually. The supply chain is audited annually, and you have a document that is provided with the BDN that gives you that reduction. So in terms of yachting, absolutely, as you're saying, when you look at the holistic use of the vessel and the life cycle impact of the vessel, with an ISCC approved supplier, you can get that documentation that shows you the exact reduction in emissions to conventional fuels.
Yeah, and well, in our case, it's going to be the same. The main independent entity right now is ISCC. For those who are not familiar, I'm not expert in sustainability, but for those who are not familiar, the sustainability goes all along the chain, the value chain. Even the terminals must be certified. So, you have to, when you are when the molecule is traveling with a certificate, and eventually you will be having so-called POS, is proof of sustainability, and then you should be showing the final footprint or savings that you are having with in your final molecule, because everybody, when the molecule is produced, when it's traveling, everybody is writing, not writing, but you are adding the CO2 you are using or putting into the atmosphere to do your job. That is one big part of the credibility of the industry and of the sustainability. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in March we had a big issue with molecules coming out of China.
Yes. The fuels was going to be an issue. Big players was going to be an issue. We sort of have to wrap up in a minute, but I just want to ask one question to the whole panel, just as a sort of roundup. Future fuels, we talk about future fuels of production and propulsion. Do you think we're in a state of flux, or do we know where we're going? Just a couple of words from everybody. Are we in a state of flux? Do we know where we're going with future fuels? Are you happy with the direction it's going? Or do you think it's going? What are your thoughts, Tom?
No. The starting point is
20 words.
Nobody knows. What the analysts are saying, final market share 2050, ammonia 35, 40, methanol 2025.
So do you think we know where we're going? That's my question. Do we know where we're going with future fuels? Is it a safe curve that yes, we're going in this direction?
We know the direction, but we still don't know if it's this way or this way.
What do you think? Do you know where we're going?
I think the same things, yeah. We have 2 or 3 solutions, and I think that depends, everything depends on the investments on technology and investment on the European communities, municipality, that could get the direction of the future. But at the moment, it's very hard to.
Because you get 30 words, what do you say there? Are we multi-fuel? Are you smiling because of all those bunker operations and extra ones you're going to get, or are you concerned?
So I think I'm right. It was Bill Gates that said we tend to overestimate what can be done in 3 years and underestimate what can be done in 10 years. Are we in a state of flux? Absolutely. There's so minimal change so far that means yes, we haven't found our solution. Am I happy about the process that's happened today? Actually, I think we're in a pretty good place. We've got some really good development and some really good possible solutions.
So, Tom, are you like me slightly concerned that with electric power and clean fuels there will be no oil analysis, no tanking? Are we going to be in the poorhouse, you and I?
No, never. You always have it. I think the European industry is a high-end industry. They want, especially the big yachts, they want to sell all around the world. They need the same kind of quality and quantity of fuels. So when a vessel is selling on hydrogen, you have to have it everywhere. So it's a little bit of a question what kind of fuel is available, until now, diesel or HVO is available everywhere. So it's a little bit easy to choose.
Okay.
For the rest, I rest my case.
Okay, well, for me, I think, it's like buying an electric car at the moment. You buy one for certain amount of journeys, if you can plan them, you're not going to be able to supply with an electric car. And I think, it's the same with fuels, we're in very much in the mix. But I see it going in the right direction, there's a lot of investment, everyone's awake, I think that's the main thing. So,
I think coming along with what Elon Musk has, drone operated platforms in oceans worldwide where fuel you're looking for. So, that's fine. Thank you very much, Larry, Tom, Chris, Harold, Marco, for fantastic insight. I know 20,000% more about fuel now than I did when I woke up this morning. So I found it interesting. I hope you did too. Thank you all for coming. We hope to see you again here around about this time next year. If you have any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear more about, or if you'd like to hear from, please get in touch. And hope you have a wonderful rest of the day at the roadshow. Thank you.
no, 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 no,